After the death of his wife in childbirth, Victor single-handedly raises his 13-year-old daughter Angela and tries to be as close to her as possible. But one day Angela disappears with her friend Catherine. The girls went into the woods and went missing. They reappear only 3 days later, in a state of shock, with burned feet and without any memory of what happened to them. And it does not end there, but only begins. The returned fugitives begin to behave strangely and aggressively, so that Victor begins to suspect possession. This year, the franchise The Exorcist turns half a century old. It's quite a period, for which the franchise, however, managed to acquire only 3 numbered parts, a prequel and a 2-season series. Interesting that this franchise has always been accompanied by a certain ambiguity. While the original film, directed by William Friedkin, was firmly established as one of the top horror films of all time, and its box office receipts showed that this genre can be incredibly profitable, the sequel was fundamentally, textbook, blatantly bad, so much so that no list of the worst horror sequels is imaginable without it. The third part, directed by the author of the original novel William Peter Blatty, received both negative and extremely positive reviews. And the prequel that was made in 2005 even exists in 2 fundamentally different versions from different directors. The franchise was rebooted by ubiquitous horror producer Jason Blum and David Gordon Green, a director, producer, and writer who started with drug comedies, then moved on to mumblecore dramas, and then suddenly rebooted John Carpenter's Halloween with a trilogy, where the first installment was quite good and the other 2 were suspiciously bad. Nevertheless, commercially, the updated Halloween performed quite convincingly, earning $500 million at the worldwide box office with a budget 10 times less. Obviously, it was regarded as a great precedent. However, the miracle didn't happen again. Despite the fact that at the global box office The Exorcist Believer earned more than $100 million with a budget 3 times less, the audience did not rate the movie very highly, and critics completely destroyed it, which can be regarded as a very bad sign for its 2 mandatory sequels. And if the weak Halloween parts from Green could still be praised for something, at least the brutality of the murders, nothing can save Believer. This is a movie whose authors either do not understand or underestimate the meaning of this project, its basic engine. What was so scary about The Exorcist? The contrast between the kind, gentle and vulnerable girl at the beginning of the movie and the vile, lustful monster that occupied her body. The long, exhausting, soul-killing and body-mutilating struggle that the exorcist priests waged with the demon. A vague sense of hopelessness and futility of any confrontation that wouldn't let go even after the nominal happy ending. Believer has none of that. It's a toothless, superficial, unoriginal horror movie that does everything half-heartedly, without a kick. It's even hard to hate it, because it's too plastic to evoke any emotion. The authors are desperately afraid to shock and blaspheme. Of course, nowadays not everyone will understand underage actresses making dirty talk and masturbating with a cross, but even in 1973, when The Exorcist appeared, not everyone understood William Friedkin. After all, this is what distinguishes an author from a craftsman who does not care what movie to make. The author knows and understands what exactly he does and why, and is willing to take risks if he believes that it will emphasize the ideas of his movie. David Gordon Green and Jason Blum are not ready, because there are no new ideas in Believer. There is only an attempt to cash in on the brand at the expense of the title, and a couple of useless cameos of actors from the first film. But if you have nothing to say, why did you open your mouth at first place?